You're listening to Underestimated, the podcast for small businesses who want to create outsized impact by using their size as a strategic advantage. Now here's your host, Shawna Suckow.
Does it feel like it's harder to acquire new customers and to communicate with the ones that you already have, like harder than it's ever been? Well, you are not wrong. And today on this episode of Underestimated, we're going to unpack why that is happening. So let's go ahead and get started. So I study human behavior and consumer behavior and buyer behavior, as I mentioned in the first episode of Underestimated. And I can tell you that it seems like things are moving so quickly because they are. There has never been a period of quicker change as far as customer behavior goes than in the past 5 years. And it's only escalating, it's only getting faster. And so for us as small businesses, we have to keep up with these changes, but it's so hard when nobody's giving you a manual for how to do that. Well, that's part of why this show exists, because I do study that. That is what I do. And I share those findings with my audiences, whether I'm speaking on a stage or writing it in a book or doing this podcast. So I'm going to share with you today how audiences all over North America, especially, have been evolving and why everything feels harder now as a small business. And the good news is it doesn't have to. In fact, it can make things a lot easier for us if we just know what to do about it. So I'm going to start with the context of all of this. So what has changed? Well, I have been studying consumer trust for 10, 12 years. And it used to be that there was about 67% when I first started tracking this, 67% of consumers distrusted businesses. And so if we fast forward to today, I did a poll back in 2025 that just asked one simple question. Do you trust businesses more, less, or about the same as you did 10 years ago? What do you think the answer was? If you've been in one of my audiences, you know the answer is 98%. 98% of consumers across North America distrust businesses more than they did just 10 years ago. And this is across all kinds of demographics. This is across age and gender and finance and geography and political belief. We are just in a different time. And you might ask, why is this happening? I could talk for an hour about it, but the short answer is this started during the Great Recession, 2008 to 2010, where a lot of businesses got bailed out while consumers were losing their homes, like literally losing their homes amidst this recession. And consumers started to get kind of a sour view toward businesses in general. And they weren't specific. It was just against all businesses. And so that trust crisis, those seeds they were planted years ago, and they are growing, growing, growing. So today we've got this challenge where 98% of our customers, before we even say a word, before they even see anything about us, know anything about us or what we stand for or who we serve, it's like they have their arms crossed and they're like, yeah, well, I don't believe you. They're just so skeptical. And the way I explain this is customers nowadays have what I call an internal BS meter. And we all have one. And it's on high alert all the time now. It's like you have to prove yourself more than ever before as a business, as a human, because they default to everything is BS. And that's sad, but that's the new reality that we find ourselves in. But that's the new reality. That's sad, but that's the new reality that we find ourselves in. So we've got this trust crisis going on. We've got this kind of baked in skepticism. And there's also on top of that, kind of this death march of professionalism as we used to know it. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but that really started escalating during COVID. And So I also I did another poll that was just a one question thing. Again, just across all demographics. I just put it out there. Anybody could answer. And I said, in one word, how are you feeling right now? And the results were staggering and a little depressing, if I'm honest, because in general, the most popular words were, I feel overwhelmed, I feel uncertain, um, I feel distrustful, I feel lonely. It was just all of these challenges that really have reared their heads during COVID and the period after. But since then, our country, I'm talking the United States, if you're elsewhere, you're seeing this happen from the outside looking in to the US, but our nation is becoming divided. We're distrusting each other. We are, whether it's economics or whether it's politics or whether it's religion, any number of things are causing this division. And it's not a division with just a line down the middle. Picture like a piece of glass that's shattered, and there are all sorts of little divisions, and they kind of overlap and they crisscross. And but the country feels different, and that means we all are changing as a result of that. And it's kind of a chicken egg thing. Which came first? Did we change and now the country feels different, or did things in the country change and now we're reacting to it? Doesn't matter. Bottom line is, we are all feeling this way to one degree or another. And of course, that impacts business. So the BSO meter and the trust gap and the crisis and all of this, it manifests in three particular different ways. There are three things that are very challenging to businesses of all sizes. They feel especially challenging to small businesses, but I will tell you, we have leverage in this that big businesses don't have. And these three challenges are: standing out feels harder than ever before. And it is, unless you know a couple of secrets, which I will share with you. Building trust, of course, that feels harder than ever before because we've got this trust crisis. And how do you do that if they won't even pay attention to you? How do you stand out enough to be able to start to build trust? And then the third thing is being unforgettable. When there is so much noise and the average North American is bombarded with 10,000, true, 10,000 marketing messages on the average day, how do you become unforgettable? And we need to do all three of these things. We need to be unforgettable because depending on what it is that your business sells or does, your sales cycle could be a day, it could be a minute, it could be a year, it could be several years. So becoming the most memorable so that when they decide that they are ready to buy, they think of us and only us. And once they do buy, they remember who they bought from because they don't see you as a commodity. They see you as a business that they trust. So those are the challenges that we face, and every business faces them. Coca-Cola faces this, Google faces this, and so does every small business. But as I said, we have an edge in these three things if we know how to leverage our superpowers, and it can be so easy compared to big businesses. So I'm going to get back to that. But so the shift has come from where small businesses and business in general, our job was to provide information. And then, of course, since the dawn of the internet, and now we've got AI, everything is becoming so much easier to research than ever before. So now our job is not to provide information, it's to provide context and interpretation. They can find the information anywhere. What they need help with now is interpreting and sorting through all that noise and finding out who they can trust. So they want guidance. What they don't want is buzzwords and professionalism and jargon, because those things are everywhere. And when everybody is using the same jargon and the same industry buzzwords and the same marketing buzzwords and all of that, and speaking professionally in all that they do, nobody's standing out. So first order of business, if you're going to stand out, don't do those things. That means that we have to drop this overly professional way of speaking. I don't care if you sell to huge businesses. I don't care if you sell to 80-year-old veterans. It doesn't matter. We need to lower the level of professionalism and just talk like you're having a conversation with a neighbor, or like you're having a beer with a friend after work or on the weekend. And you would not, in any of those circumstances, say, we provide unparalleled expertise and we establish synergies among blah, blah, blah. Your neighbor or your friend is going to laugh you out of the place. So we now need to change how we talk. And as small businesses, we can do this. And you will see if you pay attention, big businesses are trying to do this, but they just come across laughably like out of touch. It seems like performative, like they're trying so hard to be your buddy in all of their marketing. And it's just like, we don't fall for that because of our BS-o-meter. So the first rule of standing out is to drop all of those buzzwords, all that jargon, and just talk like a human being talks to somebody that you know. Okay. And the other thing is customers want clarity. They don't want a list of your credentials. Like that stuff doesn't matter as much as it used to. And I'm not saying it doesn't matter if you have been in business for 50 years and you've won a bunch of awards. Of course, credentials matter, but they don't matter like they used to. Those are almost an also ran, because somebody that hasn't won a lot of awards and has only been in business for a year can outhuman you and build trust a lot quicker by just helping their customer get clarity and guiding them through and building that trust and standing out in a way that all of the professional jargon and buzzwords and the ways that we used to talk, those never can replace just a conversational tone in all of your marketing. So it also means that customers want to see the good, the bad, the ugly. They want to see the behind the scenes. They want to see the messy middle. I don't think I coined that term, the messy middle, but I use it a lot. And one of the examples that I give when I'm speaking to an audience from the stage is think about bakeries. Bakeries that make cupcakes, for example. There are a lot of bakeries that make cupcakes, and every one of them has decent cupcakes, right? If your bakery only ever shows pictures of perfect, beautiful cupcakes, and it says like made with real ingredients, and these are the flavors, and these are the sizes, you're just giving facts. You're not giving context. You're not talking like a person would talk. Now, if I'm your neighbor and you're telling me about your favorite new bakery that you just discovered, how would you convey that to me as a neighbor? And how would you tell that to me without buzzwords, without professionalism, but with context and with emotion and in the form of a story? Because we don't talk to each other in features and benefits and accolades. And, you're not going to say, this bakery has been in business for 17 years and it is blah, blah, blah. You're not going to say that. You're going to say, oh my gosh, these were the best people. This bakery was so fun, or it was so different. And their cupcakes have this thing that these other cupcakes don't have at other bakeries. And you're going to be further influenced if you see something on social media where that bakery is showing you the messy middle. They're not just showing you the finished product. They're showing you the behind the scenes of the lugging of the flour, and maybe the time that the machine, the blender, like exploded and ingredients went everywhere and covered everybody. And they're all like, oh my gosh. And they're laughing about it. And they have to do everything all over again. Those are the types of things, that messy middle, that back of house, those insider things, not just always showing the perfection. Those are the types of things that help you stand out. They help you build trust, and they help make you unforgettable. So it's not just the perfection and the professionalism and the accolades and the features and the benefits. We want the stories. We want to know what went into the thing. And big corporations And also most of your competitors, if you do research, they're still showing just the end product, and they're still listing all of their credentials, and they're still using all of the buzzwords. And so they're not talking about when things go wrong or a struggle that you recently had getting an ingredient or getting a product in. They're not talking about how frustrating it can be sometimes because you had to stay up till midnight and you missed your kids, play or whatever because you had orders to fill. These are the things that endear you to your customer as a small business. And Target and Coors, since I'm talking about beer, these huge businesses, they can't recreate that thing that you can do so easily. So customers want proof in the form of a story. They don't want a list of kind of ambivalence, all these buzzwords that run together. Like, okay, you've seen an example, I'm sure you've driven past a million pizza places that say best pizza in town. Do you believe it? No, you don't believe it. If you see something nowadays that says fresh ingredients, do you care? That's it's not a differentiator anymore. But if you see something on social media that shows like maybe two guys spinning dough in the air and they're having a contest or something, and one of them, lands on his face, I'm just talking about capturing the real stories that happen at your business and conveying those in a human way. That does so much more than the professionalism and the buzzwords and the we're dependable and reliable and we're the best and we have the best customer service and all that stuff that is just not believable. So what can you do to convey things differently? And one of the things that you can do is run everything through like an out-humaning the competition filter. And that is, if you take one piece of your marketing and you read it to a friend or you read it to your neighbor, does it sound like something you'd actually say? Or does it sound ridiculous? And does it sound corporate? Or does it sound human? Human is a thing that hugely differentiates us as small businesses. And I will tell you that it is the number one trust builder is when you can tell stories and be human and vulnerable and transparent. And I know it feels risky to do that. And especially the longer you've been in business, I get it. As somebody who's owned businesses since 1994, I would say, like real businesses, not my third grade fuzzy pencil business. But I can tell you that this is hard to unlearn. It is really hard to change how you've always done things, but your customers are changing, they have changed, and they are continuing to change very rapidly. So we have to take the leap of faith and give up the way that we've always done things and embrace the fact that we can and we need to do things in ways that big businesses just can't, because that's what our customers want. And they are starting to vote with their money. They are starting to choose small business over big business for a multitude of reasons. Number one is that they're trusting small now more than ever before. And number two, they are feeling this pull toward supporting their local communities more than ever as things get divided. Remember the shards of glass? So they're feeling this pull to support the small business and to vote with their pocketbook and don't reward bad actors, bad businesses, and those types of things. So it is your time. If you ever were going to make such a change in the way that you talk about yourself and your business, now is the time. So what big businesses can't do well, they can't respond quickly. If you see something going on in the news, you can make a video about that right away or do a post about it right away and give your own take or give a tip based on your own experience or share a story about how you encountered that same thing. Another thing big businesses just can't do, empathy. You've called a call center and somebody on the other end is like, reading a script about how so sorry they are that you have encountered this difficulty. Do you feel like they really feel sorry for you? And another thing that they can't do is show vulnerability. And I've already given you a few examples of how you can do that. Stories and out-humaning and being transparent and less professional. These are all ways that you can leverage as a small business. These are superpowers that you have innately that you can leverage to stand out, to build trust, and to be completely unforgettable. So, as I said, these stories matter more than ever. They create memory. In fact, a recent statistic that I saw said that stories make you 22 times more memorable than facts. How cool is that? So, if you want to convey a fact, great, do that, but do it in the form of a story. It'll stick more. And lastly, when I talked about being vulnerable, customers pay attention to how you handle difficulties. Things are always going to go wrong. They go wrong with the biggest businesses in the world. It is just how you handle it that they are watching closer than ever today. And your trust is on the line. And if you handle it well, if you handle it quickly, if you handle a delay or a mistake or some confusion or anything like that quickly and vulnerably and honestly, and don't go radio silence, that's another way that you can build trust. And then you can tell stories about it later. So being relevant and being honest and being human and personable, these are all things that are going to endear us to today's rapidly changing customers. So instead of looking at your marketing through the lens of how does this make us look, change that and think about how does this come across? How does this make them feel about us? And that's just another way to kind of be sticky. So we're not out to persuade anybody anymore. We are out to reassure them and that we are human and we've got their back and we're here to interpret things for them and guide them and help them feel confident in choosing you. And that comes from trust. So your challenge this week, if you are up to it, pick one piece of your marketing and run it through the filter. Does it pass the neighbor test? Does it pass the beer with a friend test? And if it doesn't, remove the polish, rewrite the point that you're trying to make, and then read it out loud again and keep doing it until it sounds like a way you would say it to a friend. It is okay to drop the over professionalism. We dropped that during COVID. I promise to tell you why. Because the world very quickly changed. And remember, if you ever did like Zoom calls before COVID, how mortified, like I would have been mortified if my dog barked on a Zoom call before COVID or a phone call. I'd be like, oh. But during and after COVID, if my dog walked into the room or somebody else's did, it would change the conversation and go from like a business conversation to a human one. Tell me about your dog or tell me about that picture. So we've just changed and we're not going back. So rewrite it. Just pick one thing. Don't try to fix everything at once. My goal is not to cause you overwhelm. And lastly, as a new podcast, I would so appreciate more than you know if you would review this podcast to help other people find it and help me reach more eyes and ears of small businesses, because I really want to create a movement that helps small businesses outperform the biggest competitors in the world. I am Shawna Suckow, and you have been listening to Underestimated.